So.
Got it. There's speakers on. Mic off.
She's sitting over there.
Got my mic, or got my speakers. That is. I think, yeah, I mean, future, they got, these are really good.
Do you have to click?
Yes.
I'm like, log into.
I'm hoping to get to the.
Oh, I do have.
That's, you know what, Erin, I don't know if I can Zoom link, I have a YouTube.
Yeah.
Like, can you forward that to me?
Maybe she'll send it.
Cause you, thank you.
Jen, how are you sharing your screen?
I'm gonna do it via Zoom.
I'll
I'm gonna just share my screen.
Yes, I knew they were running, but I was like.
Use the
HDMI. Tennis. Always ways, yeah.
Yes,
Band, choir.
it's just running around. You don't
Yeah,
go
I mean,
in.
it was just. Yeah.
Everybody that's here just have them sign in through.
All right, I sent it. Thank you.
Got three.
Thanks for your.
Erin, are you feeling pretty good? Oh.
And I'm alive.
You think so? No. Erin,
Yes, I think so.
I don't. Mostly.
Can everybody hear me?
Like, it's not like you go anywhere about that. So it's not, they got his name.
We're gonna start with roll call to see if we have a quorum. Becky? Is Becky on? Robert? Joanne, we know she's on well-deserved vacay. James? Deb Lambert? Jennifer Lance?
Good morning, I'm on.
Good morning, Jennifer, thank you. Stephanie McCaffrey? Stephen
Hey.
McCaffrey?
Yep, I'm here.
Daniel Mustard?
I'm here.
Good morning, Daniel.
Good morning.
That's.
Tom Pearson? You have your name is Katrina?
Yes.
You're here? Margaret Smith? Megan Springer? Kelly Tungate? So we do not have a quorum. So we can't take care of election of the vice chair for programs because we do not have a quorum. But I can explain the three chairs to you. Mine is for outreach, and I talk to groups that aren't healthcare. So that would be Chamber of Commerce, anybody like that, NAFA, who has some kind of interest in what the commission does, but doesn't understand all the healthcare understandings. So I'm like that little bridge between them. Then we have the person who does programs, and that person will help set up all the different programs that we're going to see. Like we brought in Jen Trowbridge today. She's doing a program for us for housing. That person just helps set all that up. Right now, poor Erin's doing all that work, and that's not fair to her. So we really truly need someone to step up and say that they're willing to do that. The other person is for those that we're looking for members, and we already have a person for that. That person will, like, when you came in today, you should have been introduced around, you should have been given all the terminology. You know, that's the person who will be doing that. Does anybody want to volunteer for programs? Going. We're moving quite quickly, so we're in good shape. I would like to introduce to you our presentation today. Jen comes from Northwest Indiana, which is where I'm from, which is a long drive, and we very much appreciate you coming today. What Jen's organization does, and I've had frontline examples of this, they will go out into the community and they will say to the community, what do you need? How can we help? Then they come back to the office and they say, okay, well, we have this bucket from federal, we have this bucket from grants, we have this bucket because we bother all the business people in our area and we have them spend money. And we raise money, and then we also do fundraisers. They don't just sit back and say, hey, the federal government's not giving us enough, we need more. They actually go out and find what they need. And they partner with the communities and the different activities that are in our community to help make that happen. And that's what she's here today to talk about, is our housing. Housing across America is in trouble. And Indiana's really in trouble, and our aging are very much in trouble. And Jen has been here helping to make that a better place. And I'd like to introduce Jen Trowbridge. She's the CEO of CoAction, which is in Northwest Indiana, and she's gonna speak on housing. Thank you, Jen, for coming.
Thank you, Judy, very much. Appreciate that warm welcome. I am going to try to share my screen. This will be much better if I do that. Do I have the ability in this Zoom link to do that? Oh, I do. Okay. Going. It's great because I can verify it's actually working. Beautiful. Okay. Thank you. So I've been with CoAction for about 4 years. We are one of the larger for-purpose organizations in Northwest Indiana, and we're pretty comprehensive, which is what you'll see here. I hope one of the big takeaways is area agencies on aging are high-capacity organizations that are doing quite a lot of deep community connection, but of course, bridging needs in housing and social services and many other pieces so that people can age well. So I'll spend a little bit of time, thank you for giving me the 20 minutes or so today to dive in a hyper focus on housing, but I do want to give an umbrella view of our aging supports with a little bit of our broader space and impact. And then I'm going to dive into several housing programs specifically that we administer, and we are not an anomaly. CoAction is the area agency on aging in Northwest Indiana, but as you know, all of the area agencies around the state really extend themselves into some kind of housing stability space, even if it's helping people choose, they're able to pay their rent and housing because they are able to afford other things like medications, et cetera. They really are intertwined. We see this in our expertise. The 4 big buckets that we do at CoAction that we think streamline really well and help drive stronger impact is we ensure that we're doing programs just for getting people to a financially stable place. Of course, we're going to do housing. We do a lot in the nutrition, not just on the older adults, but we do the WIC program and we partner with a lot of other entities in the middle of that. So really from prenatal care to end of life, we're doing a whole spectrum of work in nutrition and getting a lot of information out of that. And then we do market ourselves by saying, of course, we're in the older adults and people with disability services too. So when people actually ask me like what I do, it depends who I'm talking to, but I'll say things like, well, I mitigate poverty. We prevent and resolve homelessness. We improve infant mortality rates, but we also help older adults and people with disabilities age well. And we have a really big Age Well campaign. So if you're interested in adding more people to follow in your social media, you can follow CoAction and get quite a bit of information. This is where I think there's some shining opportunity. I will say that even if your area agency on aging in your region does not hold other distinctions, they are strong partners with these other agencies. So for us, aging and nutrition, housing stability, low income and nutrition, those are intersected. We are serving about 30,000 people a year. We have about 30 programs in which we do that. And it's that secret, like kind of successful spot for us because we get this bigger lens of how these things interconnect. These are the 4 distinctions that we hold. And again, there's 5 AAAs that are also community action agencies. There are AAAs that are also community housing development organizations. They're really, again, high functioning, high capacity organizations, really ran like businesses for people in order to assure that we've got the right impact and people aren't either sliding deeper into poverty or we're either maintaining or improving the health outcomes for folks. These are our specific designations. Of course, these are kind of geographically defined. These open up opportunities for funding. They open up opportunities for grants, and of course, with new discoveries and new things that we can try to transform and make an impact. I don't think I will surprise you today by sharing that we're in a housing crisis. And we're in a housing crisis for all ages, but I will put more attention on our 60+ population for interest. This is one program that we do. It's called the Housing Choice Voucher Program. So for now, if you have someone who has limited income, maybe 40,000 a year, which by the way, you know, making $18, $19 an hour probably equates to somewhere around that. And we've got quite a few people who even work at Coaction and elsewhere, many in social services, who, you know, are making an income where it's very difficult to even pay rent with the amount of money you have. We're not even talking home ownership. The Housing Choice Voucher Program is really helpful for people to cover the gap in rental costs. They're administered by Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority. So I'm really grateful that we have a spot on the Commission of Aging that holds that expertise. And they work a lot with large cities who have their own housing authorities. They do their own. And so they help all those other cities in between. And so that's what we navigate at Coaction. We are helping almost 900 people with a voucher every month, make sure that they have stable housing, landlords are paid, et cetera. Today, we have 202 voucher holders that are 60+. So 202 people own a voucher or use a voucher that are 60+. We have 198 people living with someone who holds a voucher. So we have 198 people 60+ who are living with somebody with a voucher. And this is just in our region of Northwest Indiana. So if you go statewide, I'm sure there's bigger statistics to share in that space. The Housing Voucher Program is very successful. It brings a lot of stability for people, but there is work involved. And like anything else, people have to prove their eligibility pretty continuously. And you have to have teams to administer that. It's highly, highly regulated. A really big service that is important to us that we just started is a diversion program. So we have housing vouchers for people who say, hey, listen, I do have an income, it's a limited income, it's a restricted income, and I'm really struggling, rent is going up, could I be eligible? You have a housing voucher program for that. I will also mention the housing voucher program is a very large wait list. It is thousands and thousands of people long. I believe it's a 5-digit thousands wait list. Currently 1,202 people that I can see are 60+ on that wait list. So just perspective there. We also have a group of people that would call us even last year and they would say, listen, I'm having a hard time with housing. I might lose my house, but I don't have an eviction notice. I don't have a foreclosure notice, but here's my situation. It's really heavy. I have needs, and we would have to turn them away because the programs are not preventative. The programs are reactionary, right? And so until someone was in deep crisis, could we intervene? So at the end of last year, we wanted to start and ignite a diversion program. How do we not turn those people away and prevent them from the crisis? So we've been doing that. We've helped 5 families 60+ already navigate that. We have about 90 active families today. The data that we have in just 9-10 months is it's costing us $1,600 to bring someone to a housing stability when they call us and they meet the criteria for diversion, versus more than $4,000 a family when they're actually in crisis or in a homeless situation, getting them to stability. So just throwing out those numbers, preventative is a much more affordable option for us. So we want to really highlight that as we seek more permanent funding for this. And as Judy mentioned, we do not rely just on grants. We're about 80% grant funded, 20% in other. We apply for things all over to try to enact or augment or even complement the services that we're already doing. And of course, we have community supports, and we're big on getting various types of donors, individuals, sponsors, and just corporate entities backing the work that we do. And we're seeing a lot of success for that. There's a lot of caring people out there. So this one, I want to just take a pause because this is a phrase that not a lot of people know. Coordinated entry, do you talk about that in the on the Commission of Aging? Have you used that phrase? That's an unfamiliar term, okay. So the state has done the best that they know how to try to capture people who are truly living in an uninhabitable place. It's complex to do that. If you don't have a permanent address, how do you do that? So the state has a list where they have deployed various people around the state to be trained on accessing this list. And so different agencies, when they learn someone is living in an uninhabitable space, we tend to think of it a tent, but a car, a hotel paid by an agency, a house that really you shouldn't be living in because it doesn't have the right components. They can go to a local agency and we add them to this list. It's called coordinated entry. And I don't know, Katrina, you want to add something to that? That'd be great. Again, our Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority is a big impact and kind of lead for this for us. So CoAction is the leader of the coordinated entry list in our region, but we have to train other people and make sure they're accessing it. So this coordinated entry list captures these people who are currently living in an uninhabitable space. The trailing 12 months, we've had 130 different individuals, 60 plus. Today, not really today, she ran the number yesterday, it was 42 active people on that list at any given moment, right? So that was yesterday. Again, this is just Region 1, this is just Northwest Indiana, so I'm really hyper focused on that. We are a pretty populated area because we do serve Lake County, which is a really dense, culturally diverse area of our state, probably second behind Marion County. So there is a lot of value in what I'm sharing, but this is a statewide issue and there are data points for the whole state if the commission's more interested in that. So when people get on this list, why would you want to get on this list? There are opportunities that come your way for housing. And so we go to this list and we call people off of it. It is not a first come, first serve list. It is based on need and severity. So it can fluctuate for how long people are on there. You'll see too that we build housing, we create it, we build apartments, we do all that work. And so sometimes when we build an apartment, we have to pull people from the coordinated entry list to live in that apartment. And then we have to give them wraparound supports to ensure they actually become stable. And the data shows they do, so that's good. All right, just a couple more things to blow your mind this morning. So the other thing is called a PIT count. Is this anything the commission's heard of? The point in time count, the PIT count. So this is another state solution, maybe multi-states do this. I'm not
Every
sure. Every state does this. Thank you, Katrina. So one day of the year, a cold day of the year, volunteers are trained and ignited around the state to put their winter coats on, their boots, make little kind of care packages, and just go and mingle throughout their communities to find people living in cars, living in tents, ensuring we have their information, learning more about what those needs are, and then adding them to the coordinated entry list if we can as well. And this one day is pretty critical because people can be transient. Most people who are homeless don't go very far. They don't have the means to do that, but they could be transient. So you try to target one day, you get all these volunteers coordinated to do this, and this information is captured and sent to the state. It's important information. It dictates funding. It's added to so many grants you don't even know. When we apply for grants and they want to know the need, we take data from the point in time count. We take data from this coordinated entry list.
It additionally informs the HUD distributions that are allocation based.
Perfect. From federal to state. So it really has a whole nationwide impact to do this point in time count well. You can see that in 24, which is a little, the bottom line there, 24, we had 3,363 households. Some households have multiple people, so we had about 4,400 people. And then you can see in 25, that number rose a bit. So a couple things on this. Data is only as good as it can be, right? If you don't have enough volunteers, you're not going to reach as many people. So it's not that the need has grown. We don't know that from this. This is just saying more people were captured. We could have had a really great volunteer year in January 29, 2025, and we maybe didn't have one in 24. That could happen. Or the volunteers didn't get great training in 24, and they went out and met a bunch of people, but when they filled out the paperwork, it wasn't really great, so we couldn't use it, and so it had to get thrown out. So there's a lot of variability with that, but I think the bottom line is this is a low number. That's the bottom line. This is a low number. There are more people that are experience homeless episodes or living in uninhabitable spaces and places, what the data shows. So at least we have this as a baseline and we're not just making a number up. We know it's minimum this. And then if you want to break it down a little further, there is some data behind here. So you can look at 65 plus, it's broken down in different brackets. So this was as good as I could pull for us. The purple is the 55 to 64. So you could see there were 751 people on January 29, 2025, who were having this experience. This is actually statewide. This is statewide. I had access, so I pulled statewide data. And then 60.
Well, with the caveat of, we do not have volunteers in all 92 counties. So going back to volunteers are critical for this and it impacts our funding.
Thank you. So again, minimally, we have 751 people 55 plus, 234 65 plus that are in an uninhabitable space. And then the bottom bar down there is truly unsheltered, that is living outside, unsheltered. And we have 62 people 65 plus, unsheltered minimum, and 227 minimum.
Do you honestly feel that gives you a good idea of how many are actually out there?
You know, it's a starting
Seems
spot.
awful low.
It is low, but we don't know how low. This is, I think, the best that we can do for now until we have a better system. But at least we have a base, like we know minimally this, and then we know it's higher than that. I don't know if you have statistics on more reality of.
We do not, because this is the best that we get, and we know that it's not encapsulating everybody that is unhoused, but we know that we can try our best to continue having coverage to watch for trends.
The other piece that we provide, and this varies by funding. A lot of funding is turning on and turning off. But I will tell you, there's funding turning on right now. So, you know, caveat, be cautious of all the news you read. There is a lot of investment going into housing. And so we do have some rental assistance programs that we can offer. They are short-lived though. Sometimes we have them and sometimes we don't. So I just want to put that out there. These are harder programs sometimes to offer just based on funding. One of the things I'm going to share when I talked about diversion though, that diversion program where people are reaching us before they're in crisis, but they're in a pretty bad situation. We have no money exchange there. We do not provide rental assistance. And so what has happened from this, a byproduct, is we get a lot of referrals, but we've seen about 30% of them not pursue. They're saying, well, I wanted rental assistance. I wanted a cash exchange. But the 70% that stay with us, these are people who are all in reaching housing stability, and we're finding really great results from that. So just, it was interesting. We'll see what we do with that. This is a picture of our newest apartment building. I just grabbed a snippet of it. It's a 3-building complex, 2 apartments and a community, shared community space, and an outside grill and gazebo and all this loveliness for everybody who lives there. Judy has been there, you toured this. And so this is a 54-unit complex, beautiful apartments, 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. It's a mix between some that are just rent people can afford based on their income. And then for some of those units were people that we pulled off the coordinated entry list. And we just finished the 2nd building December. It's always full before we fill it up. Yes, the demand is that high, no problems there. And these are really incredible projects. Some of your area agencies on aging are also community housing development organizations and doing really great builds and solutions. And we're one of many things the state is investing in to create opportunities. These projects are hard to get. They're about 30% funded. We have an active project at IHCDA right now that we're hoping gets funded. We'll find out in December, but it's in Lake County. And it's gonna be our first 3-story building in Lake County, top 2 stories apartments, main floor co-action headquarters. That's exciting for us because the entire 35-ish apartment building is all for people on that coordinated entry list, 55 plus. So it's targeting 55 plus, coordinated entry. We will be on site, and we have found, again, when you provide support and trust, and you have people with their basic needs met, then you work on mental health, then you work on addiction. You have to make sure basic needs are met. Shelter and food have to be met, then you can work on everything else. Evidence proves it. We've seen it with our 260 units we have, so we're excited to share that with anyone who needs more information about that.
I have clients that literally have no home. You fill out the application, it says no residence. You go see them wherever that may be. Usually it's a car. So for them to be bringing this to Lake County, to me, is massive, and it's so important, it's ridiculous. And I am so proud of them for doing this.
Thank you. And there's a couple entities that get involved, but tax credit properties, these kind of buildings take an incredible amount of expertise. We have someone, he's our chief housing officer, Jordan Stanfield, very active in various housing initiatives and other entities, was a former CEO of a standalone community housing development organization that we merged a few years ago because of the synergy being an area agency on aging, a community action, and adding housing into that. It just made sense, and it was a very smooth process, and I encourage other partnerships to happen statewide with agencies like that. I just have 2 more slides left, really. Just the takeaway, like what prevents people obviously from having some of these solutions at their fingertips. These are the overviews. Again, you are all chosen and appointed to be on this commission for reasons. And so those reasons are you're connected to some of these issues. So this is not a surprise, but just validating what you already know. Of course, documentation is difficult for people. And if you have to be present and on site, transportation will continue to be a barrier for a while. So maybe we can have solutions that don't involve transportation. The housing stock, we need housing stock in every lane. I do a lot of work with cities on housing. We need $1 million homes, we absolutely do. And we need $500,000 homes and $300,000 homes. And we need really under $200,000 homes too. So we really need the whole stock so people can move around into the housing they can afford. And that will really elevate the housing health for our state. The funding piece, obviously, a lot of leverage goes to organizations like ours because we have certain block grant dollars. These were not included in the big, beautiful bill. However, both our Congress, our groups, our House and our Senate have added funding, significant funding in their recommendations for this bill. And so we're looking very hopeful on the federal side because people understand it is critical to have certain block grant dollars. It is critical for local communities. They actually leverage many other programs to happen. And then of course it's intertwined. Housing stability is tied to utilities, which are definitely going up in many areas of the state. It's tied to overall health and medicine. We know housing is health. So just being clear that when we make decisions about funding, especially on the legislative level, we are not thinking 1, 2, 3 steps deep. We are going 10 steps deep. What are the chain reactions of things? Talking with experts, area agencies on aging are experts, as well as community action organizations and these, we call them CHODOs, but the community housing development organizations. And I already plugged my house first, work on everything else after. Of course, we're going to end with action that you can take because we got to end on that hope note. So choice funding has been fantastic for us to use to delay and divert people from Medicaid. Diversion and homelessness that I talked about that we do, we grab people before they're in crisis. Choice helps us do that too. Before people are absolute Medicaid dependent, Choice gives us the ability to work with them to delay and prevent Medicaid dependency. And so just making sure those are funds there, that we recognize the value they bring and that we're coming to the table to talk that out is critical. We do a lot of housing and rehabbing, and we're gonna be doing more, probably even in modification space. And as you know, when someone falls and they then have to go in the hospital and they then have to go to rehab and they have to go to a facility and the funds run out and their housing becomes a problem, if that had been prevented with a ramp, the thousands and thousands of dollars that are saved. But as anything else, prevention is hard to prove. And so we tend to stray from it. So I ask all of us with wisdom that we have to really focus on prevention, and we'll save a lot of money in the long run. If you are interested in being a landlord, you have family members who have the capacity to be, homeowners and landlords, do it. The housing voucher program always needs more landlords. We have great, great tenants. Of course, you're gonna hear the negative. Talk to any landlord who rents to anybody, and 1 out of 10 is a challenge. But we actually have beautiful, wonderful, hardworking families who value their voucher tremendously. They are wonderful renters, and the rent gets paid on time every month. It's just beautiful. So if you're interested in that. Katrina did the point in time count, so thank you for that plug. We need more of them. You should volunteer for the point in time count. Get a good winter jacket and go for it. Bring your kids, teenagers maybe, if they allow it. And then, of course, the partnerships. As a Commission on Aging, you might be hyper-focused on the area agencies on aging, but they are not standalone agencies. They partner, again, with other organizations to deliver the best to make sure people age well. So there's a lot of offering that they can give to help the state make good guidance and decisions.
On your last statement there, can you explain how you work with your organization, other organizations in the community to build the housings that you have?
Yes, so when we do housing projects, depending on who is going to be living in those projects, we do MOUs really from the beginning, even from the concept. Mental health providers and addiction providers are fantastic for us. So we will design buildings as partners, and knowing that when people move in, we are going to create a referral process, on-site situations. So we'll partner with local entities, regional healthcare, Edgewater, Porter Stark. These are big names in our region, and they will have people even come on site and meet with the residents. We actually have coordinated transportation. So when we've got housing projects, especially apartments, we can work with some local transportation providers to add a stop for that area on a regular basis. So there are mechanisms you can do with relationships to really enhance quality of life for people when your business leaders are connecting with each other and making strategy. Also with food, we do a lot with nutrition and food at those sites too. Some even will have a food pantry on site for folks.
Dan, do you have any questions for Jen? Dan? I think we lost him.
If
No,
Dan's there.
I'm here. Yeah, this is a question for Jen, but also I think for the folks from, I'm sorry, there used to be the Division of Aging. Is there any conversation at this point about modeling the same type of approach that we use for folks in disability services, where we have for folks who might share a house using their own resources to pay rent, and then the state helping with funding, or it's actually federal and state funds being used to pay for assistance for a staff person. I mean, the model seems to work well for folks with disabilities. We've been doing that for quite a long time. You know, we call it supported living and disability services. Is there anything like that on the horizon for aging services?
We have not had conversations about that I am aware of. We are, as part of our implementation of Choice 3.0 and 1391, and when we're talking about the array of service options that we want to consider or prioritize as we're, looking to meet those goals. Housing has come up as an area. What that'll look like, I don't know, but we do have a work group comprised of folks from AAA's working with us on that.
Thanks, Aaron.
Jen, so if a family member has a person who has, say, Down syndrome.
Mhm.
And they're going to pass away, will you guys take on a house? Keep that person in the home and then use the rest of it to rent it out to those of need, or do you not work with that at all?
We do not do that. There might be some intellectual developmental disability companies that do that since they run residential programs.
Okay.
Sometimes it's more common for a family to even donate the house to the organization.
Right.
With the commitment that the organization staffs that. We try to get in a multi-family space. The demand is so big for housing. So we don't even do a lot single anymore. We're really trying to build a bigger portfolio of just multifamily. As soon as we build this new property, once this gets approved and maybe this year, maybe another year, I don't know. But when this gets approved, as I mentioned, it's a 35 unit building, it will be full way before we're ready to actually open the doors. The demand is just there. So.
I would, if I may, I want to kind of add that with home and community-based waivers, the home and community-based settings rule does not allow the actual waiver service to be tied to the lease arrangement or arrangement. So that has to be totally free. Provider can't require that individual use their waiver service. So the lease has to be separate. The support can be provided in that setting. But they're not connected. Waiver doesn't pay for room and board, and they can't be connected under federal regulation.
Any other questions? Concerns? Jen, thank you very much. I really do appreciate you coming today.
You're welcome. Thanks for the opportunity.
Really does. Okay, Division of Disability, Aging and Rehabilitative Services. Give an update. That's you, Aaron.
Waiting for the slides to come up.
For anybody who doesn't know Aaron does everything.
That's true.
Do you want to tell us what you don't do?
Adult protective service. We shared shortly after our last meeting in July, the news that the Division of Aging and the Division of Disability and Rehabilitative Services. Oh, yay! I will pause, and since this is up now, I will.
Because you were quick on your feet.
I was jumping ahead. Wanted to share that last week we had the 2025 Golden Hoosier Awards, which is co-hosted by our office, the Lieutenant Governor's office, and AARP, recognizing older adults for outstanding volunteerism. And our very own Dr. Burke was nominated by Chuck Liddell at Area 5, and she was selected as one of the 12 award recipients for 2025. So we got to celebrate her last week. And as Judy mentioned earlier, she is on a well-deserved vacation right now, so we can recognize her again at our next meeting. But jumping back to where I started to go, we shared that the Division of Aging and the Division of Disability and Rehabilitative Services are merging into a new entity with a familiar name, the Division of Disability, Aging and Rehabilitative Services. At this point, this is an operational change, and we are working towards a legislative change in the 2026 legislative session upcoming this January. With this merger, the Division of Aging is becoming a bureau of DDARS and is now known as the Bureau of Better Aging. We are still responsible for all of the areas that we have historically been responsible for and are still the state unit on aging. We have really been working towards better supporting with all of the changes that have happened over the last couple of years within the Aging Network and Aging Services, really focusing on how we can strengthen who we are and really support our core functions. So we have done a pretty detailed analysis of our business unit structure. Starting in the spring, we engaged in a strategic planning process, and we've come up with 11 action areas that we are focusing on, really to improve efficiency and effectiveness of our services and supports. And a lot of the initial actions that we're working on really relate to our internal processes and approach to the work that we're doing. We've done a detailed review of our policies and procedures and have a number of areas we're focusing on that. We really recognize that in order to effectively do our job, we need to make sure that we do have consistent policies and procedures and that we are disseminating them appropriately. So that is a priority area as well. And we are really reorganizing the now Bureau of Better Aging. And the next slide shows our currently foreseen organizational structure. We will be separated, or I guess divided into quality and outcomes, program and policy, and provider and vendor relations. But all of those envision little dotted lines because in order for us to effectively fulfill our responsibilities, we need to coordinate and collaborate. I am really excited about the change. I'm excited about the merger with DDARS. I think because of all of the coordination, the overlap that we have in the populations that we serve, the similarities for the issues that we're talking about, to have that closer collaboration and partnership, I think is going to serve us all well. Kelly, do you want to add anything?
Well, I think you covered it very well. We've been rather aggressive this process. I'm sure you're gonna speak to a little bit more than that. You see some stars up there. So I'll let you kind of talk a bit more about that.
Okay.
But we've really exceeded expectations and timelines that have been established, and looking forward to a renewed focus on our strategic vision, and a big piece that will be the multi-sector plan.
Yes.
Erin, are we gonna get these slides?
Yes, I will share the slides, and if Jen will share hers, I will share those out too. Okay, thank you. Yes, the start positions are vacancies that we are hoping to fill in the coming months. We are really starting with our leadership team. Vanessa Conbard will serve as our Director of Policy and Strategic Initiatives, and she's really going to drive our work with the multi-sector plan on aging, as well as our strategic planning. We have a state plan coming up, so there's a lot of planning happening within the BBA over the next upcoming months. We will be posting a Deputy Chief of Staff position, as well as some senior leadership, a Director of Quality and Outcomes and Program and Policy. And Deb Igleski on my team, some of you know, will serve as our Provider and Vendor Relations Director. So we're really focused on getting that kind of core leadership team in place. And then because individuals may be seeing shifts in their roles and responsibilities, we're gonna take some time to kind of really look at where responsibility lies, how we can best coordinate, and really be a resource to our vendors, providers, grantees, the network.
I think what I'm most excited about, the result of the work this Aaron mentioned were the three core functions, and if you look within the program and policy area, that home and community-based services are looked at as one cell, where before it was rather siloed, if you will, and they work separated, so really finding some synergies there, improving internal collaboration and working together more effectively. I think your presentation spoke to that. Nothing stands in isolation. Okay, it either stacks or works alongside. So we're actually doing some prep work on that now. Aaron's been, and Vanessa both have been doing a great job leading the team through that, just some foundational pieces of how we can better work together, and better collaborate, communicate. Sorry, I had.
No,
to do
that's-
that. Right.
I think we all recognize and feel how much information is constantly coming at us, how things are changing. So we really want to make sure that internally we are all on the same page, sharing a consistent message, make sure we know what's going on at all times. So we're really trying to prioritize that, so.
Any questions about that?
One, I know the PACE programs have historically been under the OMPP side of things. I can't see the slides, but are they going to start aligning more closely with the home and community-based services in this org structure, or will they stay completely separate? Is there any consideration on that yet?
We are in discussion internally. I'm not certain where that will land. I've had some initial conversations with leadership within the Office of Medicaid Policy and Planning, where it's now housed. So more to come.
Okay,
There hasn't been a final determination on that. In fact, I was just communicating about that earlier, before coming in today.
I know the PACE programs would be happy to pull together council if there's any feedback or
Thank you.
questions.
Thank you.
Can you give us your name, please?
Beth Edwards
Thank you.
for the minutes.
Does anybody else have any questions? Beth, where are you from?
Kinship PACE, Indiana.
Does anybody else have any other questions, concerns? All right, we're gonna go to the advisory committees. Wow, we're really.
Oh, I still have more.
Oh,
Sorry.
sorry.
I was gonna give some,
I truly am trying to hurry this.
Right.
Wait a minute.
made slides. There were questions at the last meeting and in follow-up to the last meeting with really trying to understand with the shift for the functional eligibility from the ADRCs to the LCAR, how is that referral process working now? And we had talked about it prior to launch, and we've talked at a high level, but I wanted to spend a little bit of time kind of going over it again to try to make sure there's clarity and answer any questions. So with the introduction of the LCAR, which is the level of care assessment representative, the LCAR went out for RFP. Maximus was selected as the vendor. So Maximus is doing the level of care assessments for both PASAR, which is related to nursing facility admission, and waivers. So with this change, the ADRC's role has changed because they are no longer doing those level of care assessments. And we've kind of separated their kind of key roles with the change into 3 buckets. And one, and really I think it encompasses or I guess best encompasses what they do, is the no wrong door, long-term services and supports navigation. And really, this is just elevating the AAA's role as that expert in their communities on what's available, how to access services, and helping people get the information and where they need to go. So the idea is if the individual is, has no idea where to start, AAA's and ADRCs can help with that. If they aren't sure who to call and they have an MCE, the ADRCs can help get them in contact with their MCE. It's really, I don't like to say hand holding, but that's kind of that guiding through the process. They are in the contract responsible for referrals to and from the LCAR, and are also providing intake counseling specifically for the under 60 population. We also are really focusing on the Medicaid application assistance. This has long been an area where the AAAs have assisted individuals that they are serving. There's an increased focus on that and really helping again guide people through the process, but also a focus on really educating potential waiver applicants about what it means to apply for Medicaid and the level of assets that you need, and just all of the implications and kind of thinking through that. And then, as you know, we have the waiting lists for the pathways and health and wellness waivers. So the ADRCs have a role in supporting and assisting with that process. I don't have it listed here, but the AAAs also, or the ADRCs, are doing the initial service plan development for the under 60 populations and the TBI waiver, and also are receiving the MDS Section Q referrals. So if an individual is in a nursing facility and indicates that they would like information on how to receive services in the home or community setting, they assist with that process as well. All right, next slide. So with the question about how referrals are made to Maximus, MCEs, AAA and ADRCs, hospitals, nursing facilities, PACE providers, and BEADS offices all are able to complete a level of care assessment request in Maximus's system, which is called Assessment Pro. So thinking about the concept of a no wrong door system, all of these entities are able to help individuals get to that functional eligibility assessment. Any individual can contact Maximus by phone or go to the website and provide some information about, I guess, a request for a referral. But those entities have the ability to make that referral more directly. Have some examples, and these are repeat slides that we shared several months ago, but just kind of wanted to walk through how the process works. So if I am a 56-year-old individual that's living at home and I am looking for home and community-based services at home, which would be through the health and wellness waiver, a referral is made to Maximus, and again, it can come from any one of those entities. Maximus will complete the level of care assessment and make the determination and recommendation, issuing a called NFLOC outcome, but whether an individual meets nursing facility level of care. If the individual is approved, they may transition to the waiver, or right now they would go on the waiting list. If they are denied, there is a process that refers the individual to the ADRC to see about additional supports that may be available. Similarly, if I am not under 60, but if I am over 60 and I already have Medicaid, so I'm Medicaid eligible, I'm living at home and I need waiver services, the MCE completes the assessment. And it is submitted to Maximus as the LCAR vendor, who makes a determination. If it's approved, they transition to the waiver. or go on the wait list. If it's denied, the MCE will work with the individual to see what other services or supports that may support the individual.
Okay, so if a person's a QMB and not a QMB plus, they can't be on pathways. Where do they go? They're over 60.
I think the next one, actually. So I'm 76, I'm living at home, I'm Quimby or don't have any Medicaid. I'm looking to pursue the waiver. A referral is made to Maximus. Again, that can come from if the individual has gotten in touch with the ADRC, that's always a good place to start because they know the whole breadth of services available. If in talking with the individual, it seems like pursuing the waiver is the appropriate path, the ADRC can make the referral to Maximus and then it would follow the same steps. The AAA is able to help the individual while going through that process with the Medicaid application assistance.
So they have Medicaid already, they just don't have.
They don't have the right yet.
So then it would be the AAA that would be taking care of them.
They can guide them through. the
Maximus is still the point of contact.
Yeah.
Anyone can call that number, anyone can fill out the contact form for the
So
assessment.
if they can't help, so if they are just QMB, okay, they don't have QMB plus, so they're not qualified to go to pathways. They can only, so why would they call Maximus, is my question.
Maximus isn't pathways only. Maximus is the level of care assessment. So they're the front door for a waiver,
So even for choice,
No,
not for choice.
just try this again. I'm sorry,
I thought you were speaking about waiver. Pathways is the managed care program where, right, the individual's Medicaid, Medicare. One of the pieces of that is Pathways waiver, but there's fee for service waiver and the health and wellness waiver. You're speaking about choice, non-waiver services.
What I'm speaking of is the client, my client is, she has Medicaid, Medicare. She is qualified as a QMB, not a QMB plus, so therefore she is not qualified to go to pathways. She's 72 years old. Where does she go to get services to keep her out of the nursing home?
so if she is not going to be able to qualify for waiver, I forget what it's called. The needed type of Medicaid to go on the waiver, the AAAs have services that may potentially be available through the Older Americans Act or Choice.
Okay, so my best bet is to send them to.
You
Jen.
can always send to AAA. They are still the ADRC. They are no wrong door, and they should always do a warm handoff, even if it's not the final place.
Correct.
So we kept, for as for the majority of it, the contract whole to be able to do those things. So they have not been removed from the process. They're still assisting in waitlist management. They're still an integral part of the process. So the purpose of this was if you knock somewhere, you can get connected. But Maximus is just a level of care for waiver or nursing facility admission.
So they actually are the ones that talk to the people and they say, okay, you need this, this and this. And they take that to the MCE and then the MCE gets that services to that person. Yes, no?
They are doing the level of care assessment, just the assessment.
So they're gathering information on their needs.
Right.
And through that process, it is determined your needs are at
the threshold that requires nursing, that equals nursing facility level of care. So they're just doing that functional assessment, but they're not doing any of the service planning, you know, you need attendant care, they're not doing that. They're just talking with them about what their needs are to determine if it's at that threshold for waiver or nursing facility.
That information is transmitted
Yes.
to,
Yes.
if it's a pathways waiver to the MCE, or would be transmitted to health and wellness to the appropriate AAA. So. It's just a function of the actual assessment that's with Maximus. And they do provide some, I'm not gonna say they don't provide any information, but
So it
they're,
enrolls them in an MCE. Maximus, correct?
That's,
no.
Yeah.
Maximus does not do that.
Who does?
the enrollment broker for Pathways.
Isn't that Maximus?
It is, but it's a different function. of
Not the
Maximus.
level of care assessment piece, that's the contractor.
Okay,
That's,
so Maximus has two jobs.
they have two distinct roles or contracts, yes,
Okay,
different functions.
so that's where we're coming into conflict.
So
So
it's the same as AAA's do different things, right? They just have different functions. Same entity, different function.
So Maximus 1 enrolls into the MCEs, and Maximus 2, the LCAR, they will actually do the level of care and find out what they need. So they have two functions. Yes? Thank you.
They also hold a contract with the Division of Family Resources and do some cost and support there too, and have for a lengthy time.
Any other questions?
I have some more slides.
Go
Get rid of me yet. So choice, the process is slightly different because the individual through receiving choice services has a case manager at the AAA. So if an individual through the care management process with the AAAs, it's determined that the person's needs have increased or their financial situation has changed and the individual may no longer be appropriate for choice and it's time to move to the waiver, the choice care manager or the ADRC can enter that functional assessment that we were just talking about into Maximus's system, and they will make a determination about the nursing facility level of care. And if the person is determined to not meet nursing facility level of care, the choice services will continue. If this person does and it needs to transition to the waiver, because there's a waiting list, they can continue to receive choice services until that transition happens, or it would, if they are immediately added to the waiver, then there would be coordination between their waiver care manager or case manager and the choice care manager about service transition. And individuals transitioning from choice to the waiver have a priority status in coming off of the waiting list. And before we move on, any other questions about referrals and?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, kind of to your point, sometimes people moving from one program to the other is the funding gap. You're addressing and you're asking questions about who is guiding the person through and helping with that funding gap when they are on QMB. The funding gap is they have not yet had a category change to full Medicaid to qualify to fund the program like you are asking about. And I think that's the part we haven't answered yet, is who is helping them with that education?
The
And
ADRC and the
transition.
AAA, as they always have.
Many of them that I've talked to have cut that service out. unless that is now coming back online.
Uh,
But that was part of the reduction in workforce. And I know because I've been on a council, advisory council for AAA the last several years.
they've removed the ADRC function?
No, the assistance with transitioning individuals in their Medicaid, the Medicaid assistance, walking them through.
No, that is part of their current contract.
Did you wanna weigh in?
I mean, I'm looking at
Coaction
because I'm like, I
has
don't
not made
know.
any changes there. So
I don't, I'm not
Coaction is,
aware of any of those
Coaction is highly
changes.
engaged in helping
That
all the
was-
way
yeah.
through at this point. It's just learning, our team is just sometimes a slight shift in process change, or Maximus changes forms, or they change something, because they have a lot that they're still refining. And so there's struggles with aligning, and so trying to get the right tools to clearly communicate to the public what to do has been difficult. So that's, and we're the professionals, and it's still a little difficult, so I think that's an area we could really help each other out.
Yeah, but I mean, there shouldn't, I'm unaware, but no one should be saying that's was eliminated. I know, that's why I'm looking at it like, I don't know.
I wonder if they had, some people did downsize, I'm aware, some did downsize based on some things shrinking. I wonder if they just happen to lose some expertise in that space at that AAA, or they actually lost the whole.
I think there's a difference in language and interpretation, because the ADRCs are directing, as they should, they're giving they may say it as general as you only have QMB, you need full Medicaid,
No,
but actually
they can state it as
assistance with.
within the current contract. Assistance with Medicaid application and understanding the process is one of pieces of scope of work. I'm not trying to, I'm really not trying to put you on the, because I'm looking at you, like, I'm not sure why that would be articulated that way, so.
Told in several meetings back that they were only going to be helping assist with the Medicaid on those that they have a list of that they're going to assist them with. So in
No,
other words, if they come off the list, they're willing to help them, but when it goes to full, start from A to B, they weren't going to be doing that.
that would be incorrect.
Yeah.
If there's something that we have said that.
One of these maybe?
Is it maybe
Question
the
that.
timing of a contract change? Or-
No, it was, I mean, Medicaid application assistance has always been a part of, now we have actually kind of expanded, enhanced it in the new one.
It's easier.
It's easier, and we've actually changed how we do pay points and really tried to focus more on enhancement around quality and outcomes versus tasks. So again, I am really not, I'm like, tell me if we've miscommunicated something. So I look to you, like, you've been strong in this, and you both, all of you have been very participatory. So I
don't intend to stir the pot, I'm just.
You're not, what you're seeing is I'm looking at them as a bit of a loss, if for some reason there's been some.
Now, what makes me think is that we need to talk to see if maybe there's
Yes.
miscommunication. And
Yeah,
I wonder like where something's not meshing up right, so that is my first thought, is we could talk after and see like where you're hitting that, because something, and maybe it's the terminology or what's said.
that's what I meant, 'cause I
There's-
feel like I'm not,
Maybe somebody misinterpreted or heard something wrong, but we could,
Okay.
So
we'll
can
help you.
so can I clarify, if they come to co-action will help them from the minute they walk in the door to the minute they're qualified for Medicaid to go on to an MCE.
if someone walks in and they don't have Medicaid, yes, I mean, you're as the ADRC, yes, yeah.
There's gonna be, we don't do all of it though, right? Like at some point you have to engage Maximus.
Right, yeah,
So it's not that they're gonna end up having a few people that they work with from the time they walk in the door to the time they're fully getting something going. And there's some pass offs that happen back and forth there.
So if they don't have Medicaid when they walk in the door, they qualify for Medicaid, you're going to help them 100% get to Medicaid.
I'm actually typing this out to the people who lead those programs. I don't always know all the details at that level, but I do know that we've helped people with Medicaid.
I would say yes, we're going to take them and figure out where they're at and all of
Yes.
these charts Aaron's got. And we're gonna, at some points, they go, okay, Maximus goes and does this, when it's done, come back, then we go on the next step, but yes, like going through what Aaron's got up here. We're going to, our job is to get them, now, once they get that full Medicaid and they're on the waiver, if they're in pathways, then that they
Then
move on to that.
MCA is gonna be the service coordinator.
But up until that point, the MCEs are not gonna engage with them because they don't meet.
Right.
Yeah, so it's our, up until then, our job is to kind of, I say shepherd them through the process.
I think that's what that is.
Yeah, yeah.
Only as far as they will comply. I mean, we do get.
Right, you can't, you really can't do it for them to a certain extent.
And we'll get them to where they need to be, then they have to follow through with, you know, submitting the right paperwork, and so, yeah, we will walk them through it as long as they're complying as well. And, you know, we do run into issues where we can only take them so far.
Any other questions? Concerns? Aaron?
I have some more slides.
That's the response for the remaining.
I will try to go quickly. There was also a request to have some more detail on the impact of the cuts that we've seen in funding. So this just highlights our primarily, yes, all state funded programs. We know most of our programs received a 5% reduction with the budget bill. The ADRC contract is which is the first one listed, is funded half with state funds, and then we receive a Medicaid match on that. So we ended up with a 10% reduction in that, and actually it's a little higher than where it was in 25 because there was some additional funding in that contract related to Pathways level of care work that was being conducted last year. So that's why that number is a little higher. Choice, there was also the 5% reduction. There was no change in the funding that is transferred out of Choice to Medicaid, which impacted the funding available for our AAA state grants. Also because of some needs related to some system consolidation. We had some increased costs related to technology. As you know, we're working on a replacement for CAMS. So some funding is being utilized for that. We are actually getting close to knowing kind of what those final numbers are going to be. So there is the possibility that we will have additional funds to allocate to the network for Choice this year and next year, but it's still flux, but and then the dementia care specialist program, while there was a 5% cut in the overall allocation, it did not impact the funding to the AAAs for this year because there had been some funds set aside for some technology work as well. So that's good. The Older Hoosier is our required state match towards the Older Americans Act, and we did see a cut in that as well. RCAP, the Residential Care Assistance Program, that is where we had the most significant reduction. We have historically been reverting funds for that program. So while the percentage is high, the remainder or the remaining allocation that we still have still gives us room to look for opportunities to make some enhancements to that program. And then our aging admin was reduced as well.
I have a question on that. For the fiscal year 2025, Do you know how much we spent of all of that budget? Did we expend all of those dollars and all of those line items?
I don't have that in front of me. I do know for Choice, which we'll share in the meeting this afternoon, our unspent through the AAA's grants is about 2% of the total. So it's about 500,000, which is significantly less than it has been in past years. But I don't know.
Okay.
Why would there be funds left in Choice?
Choice utilizes a cost-based reimbursement and is distributed based on a population-based funding formula and also some historical trend, like historical spending. So it's a funding formula that divides up the funding. So it's a estimate for how many funds are going to be needed in each planning and service area or AAA's county region. We usually about halfway through the year will ask if any areas need additional funding or anticipate not spending all of their funding. So then at that point, we reallocate funds. So this year we were able to add additional funds about halfway through the year to 9 of the AAA's, and 2 of them provided some funding to be able to reallocate. So. Yeah, just wanted to talk, I guess, any other questions about that before we move on? It is almost time to start planning for the 2027 through 2030 state plan on aging. And the Commission on Aging per statute has a role in the study and planning for, as it's written in the statute, the aging and the aged, and has really our state plan on aging under the Older Americans Act is how we tell the Administration for Community Living and all of our stakeholders what we're going to do on behalf of the older population and caregivers for an upcoming 4-year period. Our draft is due in the spring, so we have about 6-7 months out. The process includes public feedback on the plan. Next slide. As you know, we talked at our last meeting about our area plans on aging, and with the updated rule related to the Older Americans Act, there's new language in there about the relationship between the area plans and the state plans. They're really highlighting how are the plans informed and based on the area plans. So I have a little graphic of how kind of they're going to flow into each other. The priorities in the area plans, which we talked about in July, are core Older Americans Act programs, greatest social and economic need, expanding access to HCBS and caregiving. Those are also kind of the core priorities that have been outlined for the state plan on aging. So we will be working to kind of align our goals and objectives with what's highlighted in our network's area plans, but also what at a higher level we'll focus on for Indiana. So I anticipate at our next meeting, we'll spend some time talking a little more about the state plan. Rebecca, you can go to the next slide. As a reminder, and I won't read them, but our current state plan goals, and I'll share these with the slides, really focus on access, improving health and well-being, caregiving, dementia capable, and elder rights. And then the next slide summarizes all of the areas that we are required to touch on in our state plan per ACL. So there is a lot that we're required to address. But it's my goal in this next area plan cycle is to, while we have to have all of these things addressed in some way, shape, or form, to really focus on alignment with the multi-sector plan on aging and our dementia strategic plan, and to make it more meaningful and doable versus checking a bunch of boxes. So more to come on this. And the last slide, just wanted to throw out some save the dates. We are having our first in a very long time aging conference called Celebrating Innovations in Aging here downstairs on October 28th. It's an all-day event, and there's an email if you have questions, but more information will be forthcoming. And then our next FSSA quarterly financial review is October 29th. And the link there will be updated with what our specific time for DDARS's review is, but this is really where FSSA highlights all of our programs and related finances. So there's an in-person option, and then you can also join via YouTube. So now I'm done with slides.
Any questions, concerns?
Really good information, Erin. Thank you much for sharing all of that. And I'm excited to see the aging conference come back. I remember those from a long time ago. So.
I don't even know how long it's been, so at least 8 years.
Mhm.
Thanks.
Any other questions or concerns? Okay, we'll go to the advisory committees. Dr. Burke's not here. I have nothing to update for you for right now. Emergency housing, Deb Lambert's not here. Family caregiving, Kelly's not here. Housing, Dan, do you have anything else?
Dan put a message in the chat that he had to step away, but he said the Housing Committee has not met recently, but the Senior Center Coalition continues to host brown bag sessions that provide opportunities for center leaders to share best practices, and they are planning on expanding their annual conference in 2026, and that all centers continue to seek new funding in the current environment.
Thank you. Hannah, you're up.
All right, so the yellow dot law, that's House Enrolled Act 1297 from this past session. AARP and the AAAs are hosting meetings throughout the state. So we've conducted 9 meetings across the state so far, and the rest of the AAAs are scheduled for the end of this month, beginning of October. We've been working with AARP and FSSA, hopefully to get those yellow dot packets actually to the BMV locations and AAAs by the end of the year. We'll also be working on frequently asked questions and information to disseminate to all the first responder groups like Firefighters Association, EMS Commission, state police, etc. And then we'll also be collaborating with AARP on a media campaign to educate Hoosiers about the Yellow Dot program. We were excited to be a part of some ceremonial bill signings, including the Yellow Dot law, as well as House Enrolled Act 1226, which is Representative Dan Chesser's Medigap law. And so that was just last month. And then again, appreciate the Golden Hoosier Awards. We were able to have Lifespan Resources, Area 5, and Livestream Services be a part of that day. And of course, honoring Dr. Burke. At the federal level, the House budget passed out of the subcommittee on September 2nd. And we are looking forward to seeing hopefully a resolution coming out of the House to by tomorrow, hopefully, to continue funding the government through mid-November because funding runs out September 30th. We are still working to reauthorize the Older Americans Act. The Senate actually passed the Older Americans Act reauthorization bill June 18th, and so we are working with the new committee chairman within the House to hopefully get that reauthorized through the House. That's it. Happy to take any questions.
All right, anybody have any questions? I was trying to look up 1226. And so,
No question, but just thank you for the partnership and support with Yellow Dot. Much appreciate that.
Yeah, I can go a little bit into 1226. So, right now, before you turn 65, you have the flexibility to really change your health insurance based on your health needs. But as soon as you turn 65 and a half, you don't really get that flexibility. And so you will be able, with this Medigap bill, be able to have some of that flexibility when it comes to lateral changes to your coverage so that the price and premiums don't necessarily go up, but you can make some switches to your Medicare.
okay, so I have a client that comes in, they go on to a Advantage plan. You're saying at some point they can change to a gap plan? Supplement?
Depending on what their coverage is, so it depends on where they're currently at, so their premiums can't go up, so they can make lateral changes based on what they currently chose. So if this supplement isn't necessarily meeting their needs, but another supplement may be better for them, but it doesn't cost extra, I guess I would say, they can make that lateral change.
Okay, so when they turn 65, or when they come out of working, they have the right to go into any Medicare supplement plan, Medicare Advantage plan, with no qualifications of health.
Yep.
Just whatever it is.
Yep.
Once they make that decision, then that's done. So then they would have to qualify medically for any other product that they had. How does that change?
I don't necessarily know all the details of it, but I just know that they can make lateral changes that don't increase the cost altogether of their plan.
Okay. We can look it up. Anything else? Wow, that's really good. Anybody have anything else to say? You're awful quiet over there. Steve, right?
Yeah, no, I got nothing.
No. Anybody else? Going? And we call this meeting to an end. And we're